Hey guys, this is EliteFerrex, and today we're going to be going through some brand new, unreleased 8-bit music. So just a couple of things before I get started today. First of all, I apologize for the long absence in my content releases here. I have been very busy the past few months between right now getting ready to move into a new house next week, and before that doing some job searching and some other stuff like that. But also, during that time period, I have been working on a phenomenal 8-bit soundtrack. And so you might be wondering, well, hey, where's the music? How come we haven't heard it yet? And the answer to that is I haven't been able to share any details about the project yet because the publisher wants to keep everything under wraps until the project is ready at least to release a demo, at which point I will be able to put some more tracks out there and give you some more information about the project itself. So, all that aside, in the meantime, let's go ahead for now and jump into the music. So, hopefully you enjoyed it. This is one of my favorite tracks that I have ever made, and was also the very first track that I made for this soundtrack. So to give you a little bit of background information about this track, because this is the first stage of the game, I was asked by the publisher to come up with a track that had a strong feeling of adventure and kind of a happy and bright sort of the beginning of a grand journey sort of sound to it. So I chose to compose the song in D major so that it has that strong kind of, outward happy vibe to it, and then to pick lots of sort of, bombastic kind of, sounds to it instead of sort of a smooth overall sound. It's got kind of that that strong sort of notes that really kind of get your attention and make you interested in the track. So let's look at some of those. I'll just play the first section there again for you, and then we'll get into it a little bit more. Right, so at the beginning we've got this 12.5 lead here, and you'll notice I've done my usual trick of putting an echo on the left and right channels there separately, using the exact same settings, just at a lower volume. So you can hear the bass lead here. And then if I add the echo in, you immediately hear the difference. So that, again, just kind of helps to fill up the space, makes it sound more like an open environment, which really helps, I think, bring some life into the soundtrack. Then as that's going along, we have the bass notes here, and I've combined together a tri-bass synth here. And this is a bass tri-bass synth. I've done basically nothing to it, exactly how the preset comes in Magical8Bit 2. So here is just that one by itself. All right, and then I also included the 12.5 bass here along with it, which follows the same notes, except the 12.5% bass here, you'll see starts off 1 octave higher than the tri-bass. So for comparison, there's the 12.5, there's the tri-bass. So they start off a little bit separately, but then come together here at the end. And then following that, you'll notice that they actually maintain on their positions on the same octave going forward, right? So we've got the bass there, and then down here, this noise long, this is a crash cymbal sort of effect that I've put in here. So we've got that there. And then down here on the other pattern, we have our percussion, which at this point in the track is just made of these 3. First, we have our tri-kicks here. Very simple drum pattern there. We've got the short noise bits to act like hats in here, so you can hear those. And then that goes along here with the noise mid channel. And so this is our percussion. All right, so we put all of those together again, and we have the first section of the song. Right, so moving into the second section now, we still keep a similar percussion pattern here, except now we've also added in this noise mid 2. Here I've added these sort of cymbals or longer hats here. All right, so again, you can hear the difference. Here's the percussion from the first pattern. And now we've added in these other notes. All right, and then we have the same percussion here for pattern number 10. The only difference is at the end you can see we've kind of cut it off to prepare for the transition to the next section. So you'll hear that really quickly here. Let me go ahead and do only that pattern, and you'll hear it right there at the end. So let's take a look at the second pattern of the melody here. You notice we're keeping the same note style here from the first pattern. I've just changed the notes up a little bit so that they're not exactly the same. And then in addition to those, we've now also added in this square lead here and these background 25s, right? So I'll do just the 25s first, and then I'll add in the square lead so you can hear those separately. Okay, and then alongside with those, we've added in this square lead to parallel the melody as well. And then again, they all stop at that part right at the end to prepare for the transition into the next melody section. We've also got our bass up and running here, so we'll add that in. I'll keep just the main lead off for now, and I'll play everything else together here. All right, and then with the main melody, here again is the full second section. So as this pattern is ending with the bump, 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 then these soft square leads come in and carry us into the beginning of pattern 6. Right, so for pattern 6, there's just a couple of changes. You notice this soft square lead and its echo are actually both on the center channel. All I've done here is reduced the volume of the echo and moved it forward, as you can see here, 2 beats in the progression there, which gives us this echoed sound without it taking up the left and right channels, which I didn't want to do because I wanted to preserve that for those other instruments on the side channels there. So here's just that soft square lead by itself. Right, and to make that soft square lead, you can see in here, all I've done is I've added a little bit of attack at the beginning, a longer decay period for it to come up, and a low sustained volume so that it takes a minute to come up and doesn't have that harsh beep right at the beginning. Instead has that woo where it kind of gets started there. Then the decay slowly brings it down to this nice quiet volume, which has that kind of soft sort of drifting effect as we get the full volume up here, and then we slowly drift our way down to the lower sustained volume, right? And for the echo, there you can see exactly the same, just a lower volume. Now the one other thing you will notice is over on the right side of the plugin, I have the vibrato and delay sets right there, as well as now this one has some vibrato depth on it, and that's what gives us that, that sound that we're looking for. And I have accidentally unclicked the box, excuse me. All right, so there's our lead there. We've still got our 25s on the left and right here, as you can see, paralleling the melody there. We have our bass, except for this section, we have taken away the 12.5 bass, and the reason I did that is because I wanted to give it sort of a softer, kind of a mellow transition in the middle here. I know I'm talking a lot, and forgive me for that. So let me go ahead and play through this section one more time. You notice for this pattern, I just happened to put the percussion and the melody on the same one. And I did that just because instead of trying to edit a pre-existing pattern, I wanted to make sure that the percussion matched here specifically, because we changed up the pace of the melody and some other things. So let me put on, just so you can hear, I'll put on the bass and the percussion here at the bottom so you can hear. I'll turn on the sides as well, the background synths, so you can hear kind of how this came out overall. So we have the slow kind of percussion there, before at the end it starts to pick back up to get us ready for that next section, and then it starts up back into the main melody again, right? So that's it for this section. We just have those soft square leads kind of carrying us through that whole section of the melody, and then as they're going, we've had the 12.5 lead here take on a side roll, kind of just filling in the empty space there. So if I leave those square leads off, you'll hear this synth is now just taking on sort of an effect to fill up the empty space on the sides. So here at the beginning we have the and now we're getting back into this pattern here, for which it's essentially a filling out of the first section of the song that we had here in pattern 1. And you'll notice it starts off very much the same here. The difference here being in pattern 3, in order to keep things changing, I've now taken the melody that we originally had on these 12.5 leads up here, and I've now shifted it to these 25 leads, so that we keep the same melody almost exactly, but it sounds different to the listener because we're using a different synth. And there are some changes in there, and you'll hear them. So I'll play this section for you here so you can hear it. Right, so here's these 25 leads here that are the main melody for this section. Right? So for that section, all we really did is just make a couple of changes to the 12.5 lead from the first pattern, like I've already said. And then we have this square lead coming in here just at the end, again, to prepare us for the transition into the next section. Over here, pattern 4, where you can see we have it come in here. Right? We have the side 25% synth on the background there, and we have the bass. And that's it. It's just essentially a filling out of that initial pattern. Right? Then we transition here into pattern number 4, which is essentially another filling out, adding more detail to what was here in pattern 2. Except again, we've taken the main melody off of the 12.5% synths and moved them to these 25s. And now I've added in these 12.5% high lead notes in here, which again are both centered. The lead and the echo are on the center channel, just with a quieter volume. And again, the reason behind that is so that the 25%, the main lead, echoes on the left and right, filling up that space. And the 12.5% high lead and the high lead echo are together there in the center, so that we hear the melody throughout the entire sound all the way around us. So that's just a strategy to help you get that fuller kind of a surround sound effect when you're working with just simple 8-bit instruments and not using any kind of post-processing. Moving into pattern 4 here, we now have these 12.5 leads taking a roll in the melody from the very beginning of the pattern all the way to the end, and we have this square lead in here along with the sides. And you notice the percussion here is exactly the same through this whole section. Then again, we have this square lead coming in here, just like we did on pattern 6, to get us into the final portion of the track, right? The other thing in pattern 4 is you'll notice for these high leads, we've changed up the vibrato here a little bit. We have a faster rate, so instead of a it's closer to a going faster. We have a greater depth, so instead of it's more like going into a greater change in the notes up and down. And the delay has been shortened, meaning it starts sooner from when we hit that note. And so you can hear the difference in those two synths here. If I play just this first part with this one, you'll hear the differences in how those notes sound. You notice for that part there, you don't really even hear the vibrato kick in on much of those notes because the delay is set to a longer time. We have that 0.30 seconds here for this one. Whereas for the high leads on this other pattern here, it's set to come in at 0.20 seconds. And this one, you'll be able to hear the vibrato clearly very quickly because it will not only start sooner, but the notes are longer, so you will hear it for longer as well. And you notice by itself that synth sounds kind of almost a little bit too high-pitched, a little bit hard on the ears, but by bringing the volume down to a low enough level and including the other instruments in there, it balances it out. Moving now into the final section of the track here, again we have these soft square leads and the slower percussion to kind of help us relax a bit and break up the faster pace of the song. Through that whole section, everything is exactly the same as it was in pattern 6 here. Nothing there has changed, except since we're going to go into the final section of the track, we have one small change here in that these 12.5 leads are now going to come in with these harmonized notes to carry us into the final melody section. Right, so along with those notes that we have here on the 12.5 lead, we also have, at the same time, these other square notes that are coming in here in the background to help fill in that space as well, which you can hear here. So there we go, that helps fill in that section there. And really that's the only thing that's changed. We've continued our bass note style from the previous sections of the track, but not too much has changed there. Now, the notes seem actually very high to be a bass note, but that's because for this section, I wanted to kind of bring the overall sound of it to be a higher, kind of a more exciting, like you're reaching the climax of the song because we're getting near the end of it here before it loops back around. So I use those together just to give the bass a little bit higher kind of sound. And that effect, I think, goes together really well with the 25% background synths here. Right, and then right there at the end, you can hear we move back down into the lower settings. And that's so that by the time we get back to pattern 1, we're back on the same octave like we were at the beginning, so that everything resets and that the transition, the loop at the end there is very smooth. All right? So I'll play that end section for you one more time here. So I'll play that end section for you here just one more time. So that is the end of the first track for this new soundtrack that I've been working on. Again, I'm so sorry it's been so long since I've made a recent video, but hopefully this kind of helps satiate your hunger for some new 8-bit music there, and as I said, there will be another preview of one of the songs from this soundtrack coming soon, so stay tuned to the channel. Also, just a quick shout out, special thanks again to Mauno for giving me this new microphone for free to test out and use in the video. Overall, I think the audio quality has been pretty good and kind of going back and previewing some of my other tracks, so I look forward to reviewing this as well. Anyway, as always guys, thank you so much for watching the video. Please leave any questions or comments down below. Just remember, I can't give out any details about the project itself that I'm working on other than that it is a game and I am making its soundtrack. But I look forward to releasing more music in the future, and I will stay in touch. Thanks again for watching. Take care.